Chapter 1. On my birthday, I found my fiancée's pregnancy test. The thing is, during the 6 years we'd been together, we had never been intimate. Ever? Which meant one thing: she was pregnant with another man's child. Our wedding was only 3 days away. The only thing I felt grateful for at that moment was that we hadn't signed the marriage license yet. That piece of luck alone saved me a mountain of trouble. On the day of the wedding, I simply didn't show up. That's when she lost it. She began stalking me, calling, showing up, acting like a woman possessed. Her name was Victoria Ashton. 6 years together, and from the very beginning she'd told me she wanted to save her first time for our wedding night. I respected that. I respected her. For 6 whole years, I never crossed that line. When she said she wanted to start a business, I handed over all my savings from the past few years without a second thought. And when she lost it all, I didn't get angry. Not once. I was the one wiping her tears, telling her it was okay, making sure she didn't drown in guilt. I'm an orphan. I've always longed for a family of my own. That's why I proposed to her every single year of our relationship, each time more formal than the last. I thought time and effort would prove my sincerity. Finally, not long ago, she said yes. I was over the moon, completely caught up in the joy of our engagement and the whirlwind of wedding preparations. The idea that she could cheat on me at a time like that, unthinkable. And yet, I already had a pretty solid idea who the father of her child might be: Ethan Moore. He'd just returned from abroad, and Victoria swore they were just childhood friends. I'd never met him, but his face kept showing up on Victoria's social media pictures from get-togethers with her friends, girls' nights that somehow always included him. I told her it bothered me. In the entire 6 years I'd been with Victoria, I hadn't dined with her friends as many times as Ethan had in just 1 month since coming back. Her response: "What are you so jealous about? Ethan and I have known each other for over 20 years. If something was going to happen, do you think you would have even had a chance?" She'd smirk, roll her eyes. A grown man getting jealous. Isn't that disgusting? Me? Disgusting? What about her sneaking around behind my back? Wasn't that disgusting? Ever since Ethan came back, she'd been coming home late more often. One night, she rushed in, tossed her bag down, and darted straight into the bathroom. The shower started almost instantly. A few seconds later, her phone buzzed, and kept buzzing. Annoyed, I picked it up to silence it. But then I saw the preview of a message. It was from Ethan: "Don't wear underwear next time. It's inconvenient." I froze. Victoria, wrapped in nothing but a bath towel, stormed out and snatched the phone from my hand. "Sincere Smith, you're spying on me," she accused, frantically unlocking it and scanning the messages. I just stood there, my face cold. Maybe my expression was too grim, because for the first time in forever, she looked flustered. "He was just joking with me," she said quickly, tossing the phone aside and slipping her arms around my neck. "Are you jealous? He's been abroad too long and forgotten his manners. I'll give him a piece of my mind later, okay?" Her bare skin pressed against me. I gently pushed her back, my face hot with embarrassment. "You two need to be more careful. Don't let it happen again," was all I managed to say. Looking back now, I want to punch myself. No wonder she dared to get pregnant with another man's child. I was too much of a fool. That night, I stepped out onto the balcony and lit a cigarette, something I hadn't done in 6 years because she hated the smell. The smoke burned my throat. After a long while, I called my boss. "Mr. Davis, count me in for that out-of-town transfer." He sounded surprised. "What happened? Didn't you say you were getting married and didn't want the transfer?" "The wedding's off. I took another drag. Mr. Davis and I had a good relationship." He heard something in my voice and didn't press. "All right, you leave in 3 days. Get yourself ready." 3 days later, my wedding day, I was going to leave her at the altar. She cheated, so I was walking away. We'd be even that night. After 10 p.m., she still wasn't home. I hadn't touched the dinner I'd cooked. The birthday cake had long since melted into a sticky mess. I lit another cigarette. Finally, she came in. She spotted the smoke, frowned, and snatched the cigarette out of my hand, crushing it in the ashtray. Chapter 2. Why are you smoking? "Didn't I tell you I hate the smell?" she demanded. "But Victoria," I met her eyes, "I told you I hate being betrayed. Why didn't you listen?" "I just felt like it," I said flatly, watching her freeze. She clearly wasn't used to me acting this way, cold, detached, not falling over myself to please her. She seemed in a good mood, though, and didn't push. Instead, she handed me a small blue plastic bag. Still mad? It's your birthday, so I'll let it slide. Look at the gift I got you. It was a designer tie ugly with a dull, earthy color scheme. And then I remembered. Just a couple of days ago, Ethan had posted on social media complaining about how hideous this exact color combination was. She'd given me something Ethan didn't want. A chill ran down my spine. I thought about how every year for her birthday, I agonized over the perfect gift, something unique, something no one else had given her. And now she was tossing me someone else's leftovers. I placed the box on the sofa without a word and headed toward the dining table. What's wrong with you, Sincere Smith? She snapped. You have no idea how busy I was today. I rushed back with a gift for you, and this is how you act. We're getting married in 3 days. If you keep throwing a tantrum like this, aren't you afraid I'll call it off? Busy? What? Drinking and clubbing with Ethan. I pulled out my phone. Miss Ashton, next time you should tell Ethan to remember to block me before he posts on social media. Her face flushed bright red. The reek of alcohol clung to her stronger than the smoke on me. Without saying another word, I scraped the cold dishes from the table into the trash, every single one of them her favorites. I'd spent 2 hours cooking them. Now it was all wasted. She panicked, grabbing a pair of chopsticks and shoving a piece of meat into her mouth. Don't throw it away. I want to eat it. Cold meat had a gamey taste, and she'd always hated that. She forced herself to chew and swallow, but a few seconds later, she bolted to the bathroom and vomited. Despite everything, my body moved on instinct. I followed, rubbing her back, then handed her a towel once she rinsed her mouth. 6 years together had hardwired me to take care of her. She took the towel, dabbed her mouth, then grabbed my sleeve as I turned to go. I wasn't trying to hide it from you, she said softly, almost pleading. My friends threw me a party today. They said since I'm getting married, they wanted to throw me a bachelorette party. I honestly didn't know Ethan was going to be there. I know you don't like him. I'll delete all his contact information right now, okay? Please don't be mad. I just stared at her, wondering if she was carrying Ethan's child. Why was she still trying so hard to hold on to me? Chapter 3. Hard to please me? She'd always been so proud, never once lowering herself to apologize. Whenever we argued, it was always me who had to humble myself to beg for peace. But now, she was showing me a softer side again and again. It felt strange. Whatever her motive was, I wasn't going to let it work on me. Don't worry about it, I said evenly. You've had a long day. Go get some sleep. Only then did she smile and head off to take a shower and get ready for bed. Late that night, thinking I was asleep, she tiptoed out into the living room to make a phone call. But I was wide awake. I heard every word. Why didn't you block him before you posted that? He's not falling for those lies anymore. We're getting married soon, so you need to be more careful. I lay there in bed, eyes closed, my breathing steady. My heart would never again be swayed by her little acts of fake vulnerability. The next morning, my alarm pulled me from a shallow sleep. My head was still heavy when I caught the smell of food drifting in from the dining room. Confused, I walked out to find Victoria in the kitchen actually cooking. In all these years, this was the first time she'd ever made me breakfast. She always said she hated the smell of cooking fumes, that it aged women faster. I'd never let her step foot in the kitchen because of that. Back then, I loved her enough to do everything for her. I went from a clueless guy who couldn't boil an egg to a man who could cook various cuisines because she demanded high standards. She had a sensitive palate. Nothing could be too salty, too bland, too greasy. I honestly thought she'd never enter a kitchen in her life. Then, one day, I saw a post on Ethan's social media, a 3-course meal she had cooked, complete with soup. That's how I learned she could even make soup, a soup I had never once tasted. Ethan's caption read, "Still the taste I remember." How ironic. Seeing me up so early, Victoria smiled like nothing was wrong. Sincere, why are you up? You don't have to work today. What's the rush? I'd taken a few days off for the wedding preparations, but yesterday I'd promised my boss I'd come in to handle the transfer paperwork. There's an urgent matter at the office I need to look into, I said casually. She hadn't worked in years, so my flimsy excuse didn't raise a hint of suspicion. "Well, have some breakfast before you go," she said brightly, sitting me down at the table. She proudly placed freshly toasted bread and a fried egg in front of me, then set down a steaming glass of warm milk, watching me expectantly. I looked at it and laughed. My laugh sounded strange, even to me. "What are you laughing at?" she asked. I tapped my finger against the glass. "Victoria, we've been together for 6 years. When are you going to remember that I'm lactose intolerant?" A flicker of embarrassment crossed her face before she quickly tried to cover it. "I didn't forget. I just didn't sleep well. My mind's a bit jumbled. The milk's for me. Yours is juice, it's in the fridge. I'll get it for you." I stopped her. "No need. You eat. I have to go." She suddenly grabbed my hand, frowning. "Are you still angry that I couldn't be here to celebrate your birthday yesterday?" But I already apologized. I really couldn't get away. They're my best friends. I can't just abandon them because I'm marrying you and it's your birthday, can I? You're the most understanding person I know. You can tolerate this, right? Yes. I had always tolerated it. I'd always been understanding, because I loved her and because I thought she loved me back. She always said that two people in love shouldn't fight over trivial things. Missing our anniversary? A trivial thing. Leaving me homesick so she could go out with friends? A trivial thing. Every time I got upset, she'd threaten to call off the wedding, knowing how badly I wanted a family. It wasn't until Ethan showed up that I realized she could cherish someone. Just not me. In this one short month, I'd seen her selfless devotion to him. All the things she'd refused to do for me were simply because she didn't love me. I pulled my hand away. "Victoria, I have something to," but her phone rang, cutting me off. She glanced at the screen, then answered immediately. "What's wrong?" Her tone softened, her face gentle until her expression suddenly tightened. Chapter 4. How did that happen? "I know. I'll be right there." Hanging up, Victoria, who normally spent 2 hours on her makeup, snatched up her bag and car keys and rushed for the door. "Sincere, my friend was in a car accident. I have to get to the hospital to take care of her. I don't know when I'll be back. Let's just go with the first wedding dress option, and can you have the wedding planner stand in for me during the walkthrough?" She was gone in a rush, shoes barely on. If she hadn't brought it up, I might have forgotten the wedding rehearsal entirely. I called a taxi to the office. On the way, I rang the wedding planning company. "Cancel this afternoon's rehearsal. I'll inform the family. The final payment will be sent after the wedding is over." When I arrived, my coworkers were surprised to see me. "I'm taking the transfer," I said simply. "You're not getting married anymore?" Thinking about what was going to happen on the wedding day, I couldn't help but smile. "Of course I am. Why wouldn't I?" They looked puzzled. Only Mr. Davis, perhaps, had an idea of what I was really planning. I spent the whole day busy with office work and even smoothed things over with Victoria's parents, who weren't happy about the canceled rehearsal. The next day, Victoria still hadn't come home. I opened Ethan's social media out of habit. As expected, I was blocked, but I had an alternate account. Sure enough, I found 3 recent posts from him starting yesterday afternoon. The first was a picture of his injured leg, captioned about a reckless driver who'd broken it. The second was a shot of his hospital meal, luxurious for a hospital with a pale-skinned arm wearing a gold bracelet I had given Victoria. The third was a picture of a woman slumped asleep over his hospital bed. Same clothes as yesterday. The caption: "Been having some bad luck lately, but at least I have this clingy one to keep me company." Victoria was truly head over heels for him, staying at his side without sleep. That day, I packed. Methodically, I erased every trace of myself from the house. A quiet final farewell to the past. By nightfall, she still hadn't returned. She sent one short text: "Friend's sick. Needs me there." I stared at those few empty words. She couldn't even be bothered to dress up her lies anymore. I opened my phone, checking flights for tomorrow. Then my eye caught the remote app for the dash cam in her car, something I'd never actually used. On a whim, I opened the recordings, and what I saw turned my stomach. Victoria and Ethan in the car I'd bought for her. The woman who'd been so pure and reserved with me was a completely different, shameless, sultry person with him. They didn't care about the dash cam, didn't even think to cover it. Their sounds, their touches, filling those videos day after day. Perhaps it wasn't that they didn't care, it was that Victoria was too confident in my blind obedience, in my stupidity. I had never once checked her phone, so how would it even cross my mind to check? The dash cam? The most recent recording was from just 2 days ago on my birthday. In the video, my girlfriend was wrapped up in a passionate encounter with another man. Just hold me a little longer. I'm getting married soon, so we won't have many more chances like this, she'd said. Ethan nibbled at her playfully, and she begged for mercy before he finally stopped. What are you afraid of? It'll be even more exciting after you're married, Victoria pouted, her voice dripping with seduction. You're so bad, Ethan smirked. Do you think that fool will even know you're not a virgin? Victoria laughed smugly. Him? After waiting all these years, do you think he'll even be paying attention to that? Ethan kissed her again. You're so naughty. I almost feel bad for you having to be with him now. Take good care of my big boy. Hearing those words, a wave of dizziness hit me. My head throbbed. I forced myself to take deep breaths, but no matter how hard I tried, it felt like no oxygen was reaching my lungs. I thought back to the day she suddenly accepted my proposal. I'd been overjoyed, thinking my sincerity had finally moved her. But the truth, she was already pregnant with her old flame's child and wanted me to be the fool who would raise it. The last shred of affection I'd held for her vanished. After the heart-wrenching pain came numbness. I sat motionless on the sofa the entire night. The morning of the wedding, I took a taxi straight to the airport. Before boarding, I hesitated. I was going to tell Victoria the wedding was off. I didn't want her to lose face in front of her friends and family. I thought maybe it would be better to part on good terms, to put a period at the end of our 6-year relationship. But when I called her, she rejected my call several times. When she finally answered, her voice was impatient. What's the rush? The wedding doesn't start until noon. You don't need to pick me up. We don't need the wedding car. What are you in such a hurry for? I'll be there a little late. Just keep the guests entertained and don't embarrass me. She hung up before I could say a word. With a calm expression, I typed out a message. The wedding is all yours and Ethan's. I wish you both happiness. Then I blocked her number without a moment's hesitation. On the plane, I switched to airplane mode. The turbulence couldn't stop the exhaustion from pulling me under. In my dreams, Victoria appeared again. 6 years together, sweet moments, bitter arguments, but I'd never imagined it would end like this. I woke up with tears on my face. I wiped them away. Life had to go on. By the time the 3-hour flight ended, my wedding with Victoria should have already started. I wondered what her expression would be when she saw there was no groom, but it didn't matter anymore. I was ready to start a new life in this unfamiliar city. As I moved my luggage to the door of the company-provided apartment, my phone rang from an unknown number. Thinking it might be a colleague from the branch, I answered immediately. Before I could say a word, Victoria's furious roar exploded through the speaker. Sincere Smith, are you insane? You dare block me? You dare run away from our wedding? Who gave you the nerve? I told you I had to take care of my friend. I was only going to be a few minutes late, and you run away. After venting, her tone cooled slightly. Today's wedding is canceled. We'll have another one later, but you have to be back here within 30 minutes to explain to my relatives and give everyone a gift of $1,000. The wedding gift money must also be doubled. My parents are furious with you. The next wedding has to be even more extravagant. I'd heard enough. I'm not coming back, Victoria. We're over. Her voice turned shrill. You say we're over and we're over. I don't agree, Sincere Smith. I didn't bother replying. I hung up. After unpacking, I rested on the sofa. My phone showed a flood of missed calls, all from Victoria's number. I gave a bitter laugh. How ironic. In all the years I'd known her, she had never contacted me this much. While unpacking earlier, I'd found an old ID photo of her tucked in my suitcase. She'd put it there herself years ago, saying I needed a good luck charm for my business trips. I'd carried that photo everywhere for so long she probably forgot it even existed. In it, she looked so young and innocent. Back then, I imagined we'd love each other for life, grow old together. Reality had given me nothing but betrayal and manipulation. I tore the photo to pieces and went downstairs to buy a case of beer. Today was the first day of my new life. It deserved a celebration. I'm a lightweight, so 2 beers were enough to make me dizzy. I fell asleep on the sofa in a haze, but still woke up on time the next day. I thought I'd be depressed after the breakup, but my new colleagues were diligent and hardworking. Their dedication was contagious, and I threw myself into work right away. Victoria felt like a lifetime ago. Forgetting someone turned out to be easier than I thought that evening. As I returned to my apartment and reached for the door, I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Sincere Smith!" I froze. Turning around, I saw Victoria. Her eyes were bloodshot, her hair messy and dull. She must have been searching for me for a long time without rest. Before I could say anything, she rushed at me, punching and kicking. "You bastard! You dare run away from our wedding? You think you can just end our 6 years together? You played with my feelings, you scumbag!" I wanted to throw those words right back at her. For 6 years, I'd given her everything. I had a clear conscience. I grabbed her wrists mid-blow, my anger finally boiling over. "Victoria, I played with your feelings? What about the baby in your belly that belongs to another man?" Her face froze. The confidence in her voice evaporated instantly. "Sincere Smith, don't you dare make baseless accusations. We've been together for years, you know my feelings. I can't believe you'd stoop so low, saying something so despicable just to dump me. Once, I would have believed her without hesitation. I would have blamed myself for being too harsh, tried every way to make it up to her, but this time, looking into her tear-filled eyes, I felt nothing. I kept my voice calm. "Victoria, I saw your pregnancy test." She clearly hadn't expected that. "Are you sick? Isn't it disgusting to go through the trash?" She snapped. Before catching herself and trying to calm down, I let out a cold laugh. "Disgusting? You cheating and getting pregnant is far more disgusting. You told me to respect you, and then you turned around and jumped into Ethan's bed to have his child. What do you take me for? Am I your boyfriend or just some fool? Was I not good to you? Why would you do this to me?" By the end, my voice was almost a roar. Victoria's arrogance was gone. She stood there silently, head down. I sighed, too tired to fight anymore. "This is it, Victoria. We're done." Her head snapped up in disbelief. She looked at me like she couldn't accept that those words came from my mouth. After all, in the past, I'd been willing to do anything for her. On the night she accepted my proposal, I was so excited I couldn't sleep, my head full of dreams for our future. "Sincere, don't be like this. The baby was an accident. Ethan was my first love, and I never really got over him. We were both drunk that night, and things just happened. When I found out I was pregnant, I thought about ending it, but it's a life. I couldn't bring myself to do it. Sincere. I know I was wrong," she said softly. "I promise, from now on, I'll only have you in my heart. We can raise this child together. Just treat him as your own. If you want, I can have another baby with you. That's enough, Victoria." I cut her off coldly. "Listen to the words coming out of your own mouth. I'm not a charity, and I'm certainly not a recycling station." Hearing that, Victoria's patience finally snapped. "Sincere Smith, you remember what you said today. Don't you regret it? Even if you come crying and begging me later, I won't. I didn't want to hear any more of her nonsense." I opened the door and went inside. Chapter 6. Sincere Smith. "Open the door. Open this door right now." Victoria pounded on it from the outside. I put on my headphones, turned up the music, and pretended I couldn't hear a thing. About half an hour later, I heard footsteps retreating, and then silence. I thought that maybe seeing how resolute I was, Victoria would accept reality. But I had overestimated her. The next day, after a long day at work, I was walking out of the office building when I saw a large crowd gathered near the entrance. Curious, I went over. Colleagues who recognized me gave me strange looks and stepped aside, making a path for me. I was wondering what was going on until I saw them, Victoria and her parents. They were holding a large banner that read, "Scumbag Sincere Smith played with my daughter's feelings for 8 years, then abandoned her after she got pregnant. He's not even human." Robert and Mary Ashton had deliberately dressed in ragged clothes for the occasion. They sat on the ground, wailing and rolling around like street performers putting on a show. The crowd was growing, and everyone kept their distance from me, whispering and pointing. Countless scornful gazes landed on me. Victoria looked pleased. She walked right up, her face immediately shifting into a smug, provocative expression. "Sincere Smith, you forced me to do this. Scared now?" she whispered. "I can give you one more chance. If you kneel and beg me right now, I promise I won't let this get any bigger. I didn't want to take it this far, but you know I don't have a steady job, and now I'm pregnant. My parents are old. I can't expect them to support me, can I? I have to think about the child in my belly. As long as you marry me and honestly earn money to support us, I can help you restore your reputation. I looked at her and scoffed. Seeing this, her mother, Mary Ashton, rushed over and grabbed my arm. Her face was full of righteous indignation. You bastard! You got my daughter pregnant and now you want to deny it? Are you looking down on us because we're from the countryside? My daughter was with you for 8 years asking for nothing, giving you everything, and now you're tired of her. You can bully us country folk, but are you going to deny your own flesh and blood? Do you have a conscience? Are you even human? I never thought something like this would happen to me. I had only walked over to see the commotion, and it turned out the commotion was me. Seeing my silence, the onlookers assumed I was speechless from guilt. Their sympathy shifted to the Ashtons, and they began chastising me. I ignored them. Instead, I smiled faintly at Victoria and said loudly, "How can you prove the child in your belly is mine?" The crowd fell silent, their eyes locking on her. They sensed there was more to this story. For a brief second, Victoria panicked, but she quickly composed herself. "What do you mean? You did it, but now you won't admit it? Don't you know what you did? Do you want me to describe it in detail for everyone here? You may have no shame, but I do. I gave you 8 years of my life. How can you be so cruel?" She was crying her eyes out, but I could see the guilt in them as clearly as day. At this point, her father, Robert Ashton, staggered over to join in. "Sincere, at first, we thought you were a good kid. You said you were an orphan, so we treated you like our own son. But how could you do something like this? We don't expect you to repay our kindness, but you can't abandon your own child. Do you want him to grow up without a father just like you?" Their performance was so convincing, I almost wanted to give them an Oscar. If I weren't the one at the center of this circus, I might have believed them myself. I laughed out loud. Victoria glared. "You still have the nerve to laugh? How can you laugh? How can you face our family after what you've done?" I stopped laughing and met her eyes calmly. "No one knows better than you whose child you're carrying. Do you really think you can win me back with these tricks? Don't be ridiculous. Save yourself some dignity and take your parents home." She clearly thought I was bluffing, that I had no real evidence. She jabbed a finger toward me. "You were the one enjoying yourself back then, and now you're the one who wants to walk away. On what grounds do you say this child isn't yours? What proof do you have that it isn't yours?" I chuckled softly and pulled out my phone, turning the volume all the way up. "Just hold me a little longer. I'm getting married soon, so we won't have many more chances like this. What are you afraid of? It'll be even more exciting after you're married. You're so bad. Do you think that fool will be able to tell you're not a virgin? Him after waiting all these years, do you think he'll even notice? You're so naughty. I feel bad for you having to be with him. Now, take good care of my big boy." The explicit conversation between Ethan and Victoria echoed loud and clear for everyone to hear. The 3 people in front of me froze. Victoria, especially, her eyes wide, utterly shocked. She had never imagined I'd actually have evidence. "Is this proof enough?" I asked. "If not, I have the video too." The crowd finally understood. Victoria had cheated on me, treated me like a fool, and then had the audacity to accuse me of abandoning her. The rumor was dead. The Ashton family instantly became the biggest joke of the day. Watching their faces as they desperately pushed their way out of the crowd, I couldn't help but smile. Chapter 7. Perhaps because they no longer had the face to show, Victoria didn't bother me for the next week. After that incident, my colleagues started sympathizing with me, probably thinking I was a decent guy after all. They chatted with me, treated me like a friend. I was finally able to focus on my work and my life. With my full dedication, the business I was responsible for quickly improved. I even signed the new branch's first major client. My boss was so pleased he personally paid for a celebration dinner in my honor. After the dinner, feeling a bit tipsy, I declined my colleague's offer to drive me home and walked alone. When I reached my apartment building, I saw a familiar figure. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me, but then the figure saw me and walked closer. Victoria. I almost didn't recognize her. She had none of her old arrogance. Her clothes were wrinkled and dirty, her hair a tangled mess, dried tear tracks staining her cheeks. The moment she saw me, fresh tears spilled like broken pearls. She dropped to her knees in front of me with a dull thud. "Sincere, you're finally back. I finally get to see you again," she sobbed. "Sincere, I know I was wrong. It was my fault. I shouldn't have cheated. I just made a mistake that many women make. Please, can you forgive me? If you can forgive me, I can get rid of the baby. We can have our own, okay? As long as we can go back to how things were, I'll do anything you ask." The sour smell coming from her made me wrinkle my nose. I instinctively stepped back, looking down at her. "It's impossible, Victoria. Our relationship has already soured. I've tried more than once to convince myself to trust you. But the moment the thought appears, I feel like I'm lying to myself. Go home, Victoria. I don't want to see you again." With that, I walked around her crying there on the ground and went straight upstairs. To avoid being disturbed by her again, I moved. I truly thought I'd never see her after that, but then her mother called me. She said Victoria had attempted suicide at home, constantly muttering my name, crying to see me one last time. Out of humanitarian consideration, I went to see her a few times, but I never stepped inside her hospital room. I always stood at the door, unwilling to go in. Every time her parents saw me, their faces would light up with joy, sometimes even with a fawning smile. I knew exactly what they were hoping for, that I'd get back together with her. Even a mutual friend of ours tried to persuade me to reconcile. I rejected the idea on the spot. It's easy for them to talk. Forgive her? How could I? The moment I saw Victoria, my mind flooded with the image of her lying in Ethan's arms, cooing sweetly. They had no idea what kind of torture that was for a man. As an orphan, I had always desperately craved a family. I once placed all my hopes on Victoria, cherishing her with the utmost care. But the deeper I loved, the more painfully she hurt me. She was the one who personally destroyed our love. One day, I went to see Victoria again. Her parents weren't there, but to my surprise, Ethan had arrived before me. "Miss me, baby? I've been dying to see you." Ethan's face was lecherous as he looked at her. Woken from her sleep, Victoria's eyes opened, instantly alert. Anger flashed across her face. "What are you doing here? We're over. Don't come looking for me again." But Ethan suddenly lunged, pinning her down. "Over? You? You got rid of my kid, and you think we're over? It's not over until I say it's over." As he spoke, his hands started to wander over her like a ravenous wolf. Victoria struggled helplessly without any of the enjoyment she had shown before. I couldn't believe how bold he was. This was a hospital, and he was doing it right in front of me. I couldn't take it anymore. I burst in. Before Ethan could react, my fist connected squarely with his face. I pinned him down and landed 2 more hard punches until he had no strength left to fight back, watching him curled up in the corner, clutching his face, not daring to look at me. I spat on the floor. "You useless waste. I've been wanting to do that for a long time." Then I kicked him a couple of times for good measure. "Stop hitting him." Victoria suddenly cried out to me. "It's my fault. Just stop hitting him." I turned to look at her. Even now, she was still trying to protect Ethan. In her heart, I had already lost completely, but I wasn't going to let Ethan off so easily. Worried he might cause more trouble, I had secretly hired someone to investigate him. And the results were interesting. Not only was Ethan promiscuous, he was also a compulsive gambler. He had returned to the country because he'd lost a fortune gambling abroad and couldn't pay his debts, forcing him to flee. He targeted Victoria because he'd heard her family's old house was about to be demolished. He was after the compensation money. Victoria's whole body trembled as she read the documents I handed her. She kept muttering, "Impossible, impossible." I sneered. "Now you know whether the thing that got you pregnant was a man or a monster." Hearing my words, Victoria's body shuddered. Her eyes rolled back, and she fainted. Chapter 8. Victoria had only fainted from shock. After a doctor checked her, she quickly regained consciousness. Ethan had taken advantage of the chaos to slip away. I couldn't be bothered to deal with him anymore. A person like that would get what was coming to him. At first, I was puzzled. If he was just after money, why get Victoria pregnant and try to make me the fool to raise the child? Did that make it more satisfying? Later, I realized he probably had his own grievances with Victoria. Or maybe he just wanted to use it as a story to brag to others. But whatever the reason, he wouldn't get his way. Now, seeing Victoria awake, I was about to leave when she suddenly called out to me. "Sincere, do you hate me very much right now?" My face stayed cold. "Of course I hate you. I hate that you knew you shouldn't do certain things, but you did them anyway. Not only did you do them, but you also tried to hide it from me. Like I was a fool, and make me clean up your mess." Victoria gave a bitter smile. Her eyes suddenly lost all vitality. "Is it really impossible for us to be together again?" I looked at her. There was no hope in her gaze. And at that moment, I could feel her emotions: anger, resentment, but not a single shred of remorse. I didn't answer her. I simply turned and left the hospital room. 6 months later, I was out shopping with my fiancé. We saw a beggar on the side of the road, both his hands and feet amputated. My fiancé felt sorry for him and pulled me over to give him some money. The beggar was so grateful for the $100 bill he almost cried. He was about to thank her, but when he looked up and saw my face, his one remaining eye widened in terror. He started scrambling away as if for his life. I looked at the beggar crawling on the ground, a sense of unease rising inside me. He looked familiar. Then, like a flash, Ethan Moore's face appeared in my mind. My fiancé looked at me curiously. "Do you know that homeless man?" I snapped back to reality, wrapped my arm around her, and smiled. "Want to know? I'll tell you all about it when we get home."